So recently I won a small tournament for this game and wanted to talk about some of the strategies. But first, as for how you play the game, it's basically like Bust a Move or Puzzle Bobble. So it's a game where when you connect three of the same color, they disappear and fall off the board like this. But it's a platformer at the same time, so you have to like run and grab the hamster of the color you want and then press the button to aim and throw it. And then you can also go to the opponent's side of the field and then mess with them or like do something on their board to block off what they're doing. So that adds a lot of depth to the things that you can do. So something that's important to understand for the strategy is how the damage values work. So if you make like the game really rewards you for making big connections more than anything else. So if you make a connection of 5, it sends what I would call 12 garbage. And if you see those things at the top, that shows how much garbage you have to take until you receive a new line. And 12 is guaranteed to send one line. So if you only clear 3, it only sends 2 garbage, and then every extra orb that falls is another 2 garbage. So if you clear a 3 match and drop 5 orbs, that's the same as just clearing a 1-5 connection. So the 5 connections are so much damage relatively, and if you can go above 5 too. Like if you do 6, it sends 23, which is 2 lines. So that's so much. Like in order to get 2 lines in a different way, like it would take you would have to drop so many orbs. So the important thing in the game is like making those big connections. But what that actually means is that so when you try to make a big connection, you generally have to have 2 separate groups. So like there's that group of blues, and now I can make another group of blues. And now I have a potential 6 connection by connecting the 2 groups together at the same time. So this is going to send 2 lines if I clear it. But what the opponent can do is they can like block. So they can switch over to my side, and because if I'm setting up something big, they could like grab something and then block the connection point. So now I can't do it, and now it's just ruined. So that actually makes it where, like, I think, so the first big thing is knowing that if you make big connections, it sends huge amounts of, like, garbage. So that's how you send a whole bunch of garbage in this game. But then, if the opponent sees you setting up a big connection, they can just swap over and then like try and block it off before you can get it off. And then just due to how it's shaped, there's always like a point that you can block off to block off the entire match and set the person back for trying to set something up. Then another thing that I think is really interesting is that so you both sides have the same boards, so that makes it easier to like have an idea of what the board is that, and also so there's different kinds of boards. Some where it's like really easy to get high damage, and some where you have to dig or you have to clear a lot to get to the potential high damage. And then there's some where there's like hardly any high damage possibilities. So this has some good opportunities for really big damage. There's these triple grays, so you can make a 6 match if you get more grays. There's triple greens, so you can make a 6 match there. There's triple blues, so you can make a 6 match there, potentially. And when you clear the grays, the right side is going to fall, so you could like build up like this to send even more. So this board has a lot of immediate high potential, damage available, so you might just want to go for that. But you can also see those yellows, so there's a connection of 3, but when you receive a line of garbage, it's going to turn into 4. So there's potential for big damage if you dig up to that. So like, if you see damage that you can dig to, then it might be better to not waste time like setting up big matches early on and just try and like dig to a big match. So here is kind of a good potential example. Like the red match could be really big, but there's those pinks and grays in the middle at the top where if you get there, it could potentially be like if you take a line of garbage, you're gonna get an extra link on those pinks and grays. So it could potentially turn into something even bigger if you keep taking garbage. So here you might not want to waste too much time setting anything up yourself. You might want to dig more and try to get to these potential big connections. So I'm gonna like send myself garbage just to show. So now that pink match is going to get even bigger if I take another line of garbage. So I want to keep that available. And then I can do a huge 7 match with the grays. That sends like almost 3 lines guaranteed. And if they already have partial garbage, then it'll send 3 lines. So you can just like win with that a lot of times. And when you're sending damage, there's nothing the opponent can do to stop it. Like they can't counter it, so they're guaranteed to receive that damage. And here I could just finish it with this. So I think one idea is that when there's those potential huge matches, like sometimes there just happens to be like a 7 or 8 connected group way up that gets built out as you get more garbage. So in those cases, you might want to just like dig more and not build up. Like here you could build up a 5 match with the yellows, but if you just want to clear faster, it's faster to just like clear it instead. But there's another thing to that. So like if you know the opponent has the same things on their field as you have on your field, so if there's the potential for that kind of big damage that you dig to, you can like try and block it off. So those greens would be pretty big, but I can block it off. And now those greens can't be accessed easily. So it's easier to block something off than it is to like dig it. So you can just keep trying to block off the big matches, and that becomes more important if that's like if I don't have anything big on my side of the field, but I can see the opponent's like digging to those greens, then I can like focus more on like trying to block off the opponent from getting to their big match. So that brings in like how well you can focus on the other person's board at the same time. So if you can pay attention to like when they're setting up something or when they're making when they have the potential for something really big, then you can like focus more on playing their side of the field than playing your side of the field pretty much. And obviously if they're gonna fill up, you can just do this. That's a really common thing. And then something else that happens is that sometimes you become dependent on a single color. So if you can tell the opponent needs a single color, you can do things like still it from their side. So I learned the timing for when you would go up. Like if I wanted to get that purple, well, I don't know. If I wanted to get the red, I would go up here and then grab the red and then take it. So if they really need red and that's the only color they can use, I can focus and then like see if they're getting droughted on reds, I can try and like take the one red that's there. Oops. I pressed too many times. But you can try and like steal the color they need so they can never get off what they want to clear. And again, it kind of depends, like on this board, my side of the field has a lot of potential for really big matches, so I think it's better to play my side of the field. But if that wasn't there, it might be better to try and play the opponent's side of the field more. But even then, sometimes it's hard to do, and the opponent can like stop you from doing things a lot of times, so you can only usually get one throw off guaranteed before they can stop you from doing any more. But it's harder to stop someone from stealing a color, so that's good. So I think there's a lot of potential for things like, for like really using the swap to interact with the opponent's field. But even if you don't use it, it's not like it's potentially really good, but only in certain situations, and you don't have to always do it necessarily. And it's also hard to do because the opponent can like punch you when you're trying to do stuff on their side of the field. All I missed. So like here, those grays in the middle are huge. So if the opponent ever gets that at the top, it would be an automatic 7 match, and it might like just win the round automatically. Sometimes you can even get 8 or 9 like that. So then you would probably want to focus on that and see if they're digging, and then just try and block it off so that they can't get to it. But obviously it's hard to pay attention to everything at once, so that makes it like, you know, a skill you have to work on to try and pay attention to all the different things. Here there's not much to dig to that's obvious at the top, so you might want to spend more time building up things on your own. On this specific stage, since the hamsters only appear in one spot, you can actually like grab them really quickly and continually throw them, so that if the opponent swaps to your side, they can't actually take anything because you've thrown everything. But then as the game goes on, like, you can't really keep it up if you have to do things like defend when they're switching over to your side. But they can bring a hamster with them to throw, so so they can get one throw off pretty often. But for the balance, I feel like it's pretty well balanced, as in like it has a lot of depth, I think. So like here you can read the board and say like that purple match way up there could become really big in this round, so you might want to focus on digging to that purple match. So that's like a strategy you could do, and then you can try and stop the opponent from digging to that purple match too at the same time. And then that's like something you could think about that would maybe help you win. But even if you don't necessarily do those things, you could still play, so like there's a lot of potential for like doing fancy things or doing like clever things, but it's not really necessary to play the game. It's just like it might give you an edge. I don't know if this, I said it on the easiest level, so I don't know if they're gonna send me a line at all. So, but see, that purple match would be 8 automatically without adding anything to it on the computer's side, and that can kind of win the round. So like, but. Oh, it's not there for me. But And then there's things like, like I was talking about, reading what colors the opponent needs, and like you could steal the color so that they get stuck waiting on the color. And there's a different stage where you can like burn the opponent's you have a button you can press that burns the opponent's side of the field, and it also burns their hamsters that are walking around in the fire. So then if you scout out like, okay, like on this board you could make a 6 match with blues, so you could like be ready, and then when you see a blue coming, you just burn it on the opponent's side, and then you make the big match on your side, and then you can like swap over and steal the color if it's ever coming again while you like block it off. Oops, I missed. So you could like block it off, or you can burn the first one, then you can like set off yours, then you can steal the color, and then you can block it off, and then continually like steal the color anytime you see that. And I did that once against someone online where like it was kind of like that. I knew one color that was needed to make a big match, so I like burned it on their side, and then I like covered it, and then they never got it for the whole round. I was like, yeah. But there's a lot of different things to think about. And even if you just like only play your side of the field, you can still do pretty well. I think the biggest things are just understanding the damage, so you get damage by doing big connections more than anything else, and then understanding like the reading the board, so like, or if the opponent's going for a big connection, it can be blocked off easily with one throw, and then you have to read the board to know if there's like big connections that you can dig to, and if there are, you may not want to build up. You may just want to dig down to the big matches, and you may not want to do anything risky. So if you play less risky, like if you don't go for the big matches, then it's harder to do things that block you off. So in that sense, you could be safer against harassment and stuff. So that's another thing to think about. But overall, I think it's a good competitive game. So it's still in demo though. But oh, here the grays could be big at the top, and the reds on the right are going to be big if you take a line of garbage. This is just a really high potential board. Like you don't even have to really build up things, but I'm going to anyway. But I really need that yellow. Got a 6 match on the reds. Got a 5 match on the blues. This is like so many lines that you just automatically win unless the opponent digs a lot. But anyway, I guess that's all I have to say here.